Have you ever wondered about the role of an author in interpreting a text? Is the meaning of a piece of literature only as valuable as the author's intent? Now, traditionally, many of us have been taught to perceive the author's intention as the ultimate interpretation of a text. The author, in essence, holds the key to unlock the true meaning of their work, like a riddle master with their riddle. However, is this the only way to understand a piece of literature? What about the different perspectives that readers bring to the table? Each reader, with their unique experiences, cultural backgrounds, and personal biases, might interpret the text differently. And who's to say that these interpretations are any less valid than the author's intent? Imagine a world where the author's intention is not the only determinant of a text's meaning. It seems like there's more to a book than just the author's thoughts. Let's delve into a concept that might just change the way we perceive literature. Imagine a world where the author's thoughts, intentions, and background hold no bearing on the interpretation of their work. Welcome to the concept of the death of the author. The death of the author is a theory that challenges the traditional method of literary interpretation that gives prominence to the author's intent. This theory suggests that the author's personal life, beliefs, and intentions should not influence the interpretation of their work. Instead, it encourages readers to find their own meanings in the text, independent of the author's intent. It's a liberating concept, really. It allows for a multitude of interpretations, each unique to the reader's understanding and experience. It's like exploring a vast landscape with no set path, where every turn you take uncovers a new perspective, a fresh insight. Every reader becomes their own guide, their own interpreter. In this world, there are no wrong answers, only different viewpoints. This radical idea was introduced by Roland Barthes, a French literary critic and theorist, in the mid-20th century. Barthes argued that the author's identity and intentions should not be used as a definitive guide to understanding their work. Instead, he believed that the reader's interpretations are just as valid, if not more so. This does not mean that the author's perspective is entirely irrelevant, but it is not the only lens through which we should view a piece of literature. By removing the author from the equation, we are left with the text itself, stripped bare of any preconceived notions or biases. The text becomes a canvas for the reader's thoughts, ideas, and interpretations. This is the essence of the death of the author. It's not about disregarding the author, but about empowering the reader. It's about acknowledging that once a work is published, it belongs to everyone. It becomes a communal property, open to a myriad of interpretations. So in essence, the death of the author grants complete freedom to the reader. The text stands alone, independent of its creator. Now that we understand the basic premise of death of the author, let's explore its implications. The theory of the death of the author is not just a philosophical concept, but a revolutionary idea that can completely transform our approach to literature. It's a bit like looking at an old painting with a fresh pair of eyes, seeing colors and forms that were always there but never quite noticed before. By declaring the author dead, we are essentially liberating the text from the constraints of a singular vision. We're allowing the words to breathe, to exist in their own right, and to mean different things to different people. The text becomes a playground of ideas, a melting pot of interpretations, and it's not just the text that is liberated, but also the reader. The reader is no longer a passive recipient of the author's intended meaning, but an active participant in the creation of meaning. It's like being handed the keys to a vast library and being told, "Go ahead, explore. There are no wrong answers." This is the democratization of interpretation. Each reader is now a critic, an analyst, a theorist. Each interpretation is valid in its own right. The text becomes a mirror that reflects the reader's own thoughts, ideas, and experiences. Of course, like any theory, the death of the author is not without its critics. Some argue that it dismisses the author's intended meaning too quickly, that it overlooks the importance of context, and that it can lead to wildly subjective interpretations. Others worry that it could be used as an excuse for lazy reading, for not bothering to dig deeper into the author's intentions. But regardless of these criticisms, there's no denying the power of this theory to stir up conversation. It opens up the world of literature to endless possibilities, encouraging us to question, to explore, and to engage with the text in a way we never have before. While it does empower the reader, it's not without its critics. It's a theory that certainly stirs up a conversation. So, we've journeyed through a unique perspective on literature interpretation today. We began by exploring the traditional view of authorial intent, where the author's intentions and background were seen as the key to unlocking the meaning of a literary work. This approach has been deeply ingrained in our literary culture, with the author often placed on a pedestal, their words dissected and analyzed to uncover their true intentions. Then we delved into the revolutionary theory proposed by Roland Barthes, aptly titled, "The Death of the Author." This theory, in essence, challenges the traditional view by arguing that the author's intent is not only irrelevant, but also unknowable. Barthes asserts that once a work is created, the author dies, and the text begins to exist independently. It is no longer the author's words, but the reader's interpretation that breathes life into the text. We also discussed the implications of this theory. By removing the author from the equation, the reader is liberated from the shackles of authorial intent. The text becomes a playground for interpretation, where every reader can construct their own unique meaning. This shift in focus from the author to the reader democratizes the process of interpretation, making literature a more inclusive and participatory experience. However, we also acknowledge the criticisms of this theory. Some argue that completely disregarding the author's intent can lead to a misinterpretation of the text, and that the author's perspective can provide crucial context. Yet these criticisms do not negate the value of the death of the author theory, but rather they enrich the conversation, reminding us of the complexity and multidimensionality of literature interpretation. To conclude, the death of the author theory invites us to question the traditional norms of interpretation and encourages us to embrace the freedom to find our own meaning in a text. Whether you agree with the death of the author or not, it's undeniable that it opens up a whole new realm of possibilities in the world of literature. Perhaps it's not about finding the right interpretation, but the freedom to find your own. Do like, share, and subscribe our channel for more content.